The scanner beeped red, loud, sharp, like it had a personal grudge against anyone who didn't fit the uniform. That's the kind of welcome you get at Fort Braxton if you look like you belong at Target's clearance rack instead of a secret military facility. The guard behind the glass, barely old enough to rent a car, looked me up and down, that smirk saying it all. "Ma'am, this is for authorized personnel only." He already had the visitor badge out, ready to send me on my way like I was lost, probably assuming I was late for a job interview at HR, not about to flip his day upside down. But then, as if the universe wanted to have a laugh at his expense, the scanner's red light bled into gold, and every screen in the building lit up like Vegas. Omega-7 clearance detected. The smirk evaporated. Suddenly, alarms were blaring, alarms half these kids hadn't even heard before. In the hush that followed, I just stood there, calm as you please, feeling every pair of eyes in the building trying to puzzle out who I was. Ever been judged on how you look before you even say a word? That's a whole different kind of invisibility, you know what I mean? People don't just look past you. They see a version of you that fits their own lazy story. I lived with that for years, my age, my ponytail, my thrift store jeans. To most folks, I'm Sarah Mitchell, 34, single mom, ordinary enough to disappear in a crowd. But that's just the skin I wear so the real me can slip through places most folks never notice. Because the truth is, I wasn't at Fort Braxton for any admin gig, no matter what the record said. I was hunting, and this place, tucked away in the Virginia mountains, all steel and secrets, was my hunting ground. You walk these halls, you get a sense for the pecking order. Cameras everywhere. Checkpoints that scan more than just your badge. They read your intent. The guy running the show is Colonel Derek Hawkins, built like a linebacker with a crew cut sharp enough to slice bread and a reputation for chewing up young officers, especially the women, and spitting them out. He moved with his own personal fan club, guys who laughed too hard at his jokes and never saw the bruises they helped cover up. I watched him from the elevator bank, noting every little sign, how people shrank away from him, how his laughter boomed and his presence sucked the air out of a room. Me, I counted backward from 10 in 3 different languages, a trick I'd learned in Tehran to keep my temper from boiling over in public. It helped. A little. The whispers started before I even made it to the main hallway. "Another secretary," someone said, not even bothering to lower their voice. "Lost, probably." I added those slights to the long collection I kept in my head, because, let's be honest, sometimes their ignorance is the best cover you can get. My old handler used to say, "Their blindness is your weapon." He was right, though he's long gone now. Bullet to the brain in Morocco, a memory and a lesson. It all came to a head like I knew it would. Hawkins strolled out of a secure conference room, mid-story about some training screw-up that had left half a platoon in tears. His gaze landed on me, did the math, woman, plain clothes, not his problem, and he went full peacock. "You lost, sweetheart?" Cafeteria's that way. The whole group chuckled, loving every second of it. I said, soft as a secret, "I'm sorry. I need to get through." You'd think that might slow him down, but it just made him bolder. "This isn't a shopping mall, lady," he puffed, holding court, medals flashing under the fluorescence. "You need real credentials for this section. Not some visitor pass." You smiled out of the front desk. The laughter picked up. Someone started recording with a phone. Of course they did. I handed him my ID, just a plain white card, no markings, nothing to suggest what it really was. Hawkins flourished it for the crowd, playing to the camera. "This? You think this gets you past security? This wouldn't get you into a PDA meeting." You could see the pleasure on his face, savoring every second of power. He grabbed my arm, his idea of a lesson, I guess, and dragged me to the main checkpoint, practically announcing, "Let me show you what real clearance looks like." He slammed his badge onto the scanner. It beeped green, lights flashing approval. "See? That's authority." Then, still grinning, he jammed my card into the scanner, and for a beat, nothing. Red light. He starts his victory lap, but then bam, red melts to gold, and the whole base goes dead silent. Every screen, every phone, every terminal lights up. Priority Omega-7 detected. The alarm that followed was one nobody there had ever heard. Not the fire drill, not the bomb threat, something higher, something that made everyone stop breathing. See, Omega-7 isn't just another clearance. It's the clearance. Top of the pyramid, presidential eyes only, the kind of authority you hear about in ghost stories at Langley, the kind you pray you never meet. Only a handful exist, and now here I was, standing in running shoes and a cardigan, the one person nobody knew how to deal with. Hawkins? Guy looked like he'd seen a ghost, color gone, eyes wide, sweating so hard it looked like someone turned on a faucet inside his head. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. This is the part where the predator finds out he's the prey. The silence was so thick you could feel people's shame and curiosity hanging in the air like smoke. Then, just 4 minutes after the alarm, General Morrison arrives, real authority, not the kind you shout about, but the kind that walks quietly and gets things done. Agent Mitchell, he says, giving me a salute that tells the whole corridor I'm not someone to mess with. I wasn't informed of your inspection. That was the point, General, I answer, letting my real voice out for the first time since I arrived. I'm here to evaluate security culture, systemic abuse, harassment. Your colonel here has been most instructive. The air changed in a heartbeat. Everyone in the corridor realized this wasn't about me being lost. It was about the sins of this place, and Hawkins had just volunteered for the cross. The reports that brought me here, 3 suicides, 7 medical transfers, dozens of complaints, now they had a face. Lieutenant Angela Chin, whose name showed up again and again in those files, she'd ended her life with a note that named Hawkins directly. I didn't know. Hawkins blurted out, sounding like a school kid caught cheating. You should have identified yourself. This is entrapment. I have rights. I shut him down with a look. Why? So you could pretend to be decent for a day? So you could hide what you really are behind regulations and politeness. He tried the pressure card. You don't understand what it's like, the stress. But I cut him off cold. I've been under fire in 7 countries, made choices that meant life or death for people whose governments wanted them dead. Don't talk to me about pressure. He tried playing the family card. Please, I have a family. I thought about the families of his victims, how many had tried to patch wounds you couldn't see. Lieutenant Shin had a family too, I said. Remember her? And that was it. He deflated right there, all those years of intimidation leaking out with every shallow breath. Your resignation, I said quietly. Or I make a call to Washington and your name becomes a curse word in every briefing for the next 10 years. He knew I meant it. Everybody did. I turned to the young sergeant who'd been filming, his face a mix of fear and regret now. You just recorded classified personnel. You understand what that means. He went white as a sheet. Phones confiscated. MP escort. Maybe charges, maybe just a lesson he'd never forget. Walking out, the same people who'd laughed at me just minutes before snapped to attention, their salutes sharp as knives. A young lieutenant stopped me, voice shaking. Thank you, ma'am. He made my life hell for 2 years. She couldn't finish, but I knew what she meant. You survived. That matters. File your report this time. Someone will listen. An older sergeant major admitted, almost to himself, I should have done something. We all knew. He was protected. It's everyone's fight, I told him. The second you say it isn't, you lose more than just pride. At the door, I turned back. Respect isn't earned by rank or clearance. It's how you treat people when you think no one's watching. There are always consequences. Sometimes, they just take longer to show up. That report I wrote would become legend, triggering reform, changing the tone of conversations, making the old guard nervous. But the real change? That happened in whispers, in sudden silence when certain names came up, in people remembering that power is rented, not owned. Outside, the Virginia sun felt like freedom. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my daughter, Emma, each marked with a little heart. 7 years old, still believing that moms come home when they promise. Her voicemail, Mommy, I won second place at Show and Tell. I said you help people. When are you coming home? That's the real weight. Not the risks, not the lies, but the moments you miss. The ribbon you'll never see. The stories that are true, but not the whole truth. I cried, quiet and alone, leaning against a car nobody would remember, letting it all out for the first time that day. This was the real sacrifice, not danger or violence, but knowing my daughter would grow up thinking her mom just worked in an office somewhere.